The bitter almond scent rising from the coffee cup made my blood run cold. One sip, maybe two, and this nightmare would end. My daughter-in-law stood across the granite kitchen counter, watching, waiting. At 72, newly widowed, I buried my only son last week. Now she wanted the $19 million he'd left me. The steam curled between us like a question mark. Why had it come to this? And who was the shadow lurking behind her, pulling strings I couldn't yet see? My name is Evelyn Harper, and I never imagined I'd outlive my son. At 72, after running a small fabric shop for 30 years before retirement, I thought I'd seen enough of life's cruelties, but nothing prepared me for that Tuesday morning when the police knocked on my door at 6:45 a.m. "Mrs. Harper, there's been an accident." Daniel was gone. My only child, my brilliant boy who'd built his fortune from nothing, dead at 45 in what they called a single-vehicle accident on a clear night. Perfect road conditions. The Mercedes wrapped around a tree. They said no skid marks. The funeral passed in a blur of black suits and hollow condolences. Clara, my daughter-in-law of 15 years, played the grieving widow perfectly. She clutched my hand during the service, tears streaming down her carefully made-up face. At 38, she still possessed that porcelain beauty that had captivated Daniel, though I noticed her mascara never smudged, despite the tears. 3 days after we laid Daniel to rest, we gathered in Attorney Morrison's mahogany-paneled office for the reading of the will. Clara sat beside me, her manicured fingers drumming against her Chanel purse. The room smelled of old leather and lemon polish, suffocating in its formality. "To my beloved mother, Evelyn Harper," Morrison read, adjusting his wire-rimmed glasses, "I leave the entirety of my estate, valued at $19 million, including all properties, investments, and liquid assets." The drumming stopped. I felt Clara's body go rigid beside me. When I glanced at her, the mask had slipped for just a moment. Pure rage flashed across her features before she caught herself, rearranging her face into confused hurt. "There must be some mistake," she whispered, her voice trembling. "Daniel promised. We discussed. I'm afraid there's no mistake. Mrs. Harper," Morrison said, addressing her formally. "This will was updated 6 weeks ago. Your husband was quite specific in his instructions." That's when I noticed him. A man sitting in the corner whom I hadn't seen at the funeral. Tall, silver-haired, with eyes like winter ice. He hadn't spoken, hadn't moved, but something about his presence made my skin crawl. When our eyes met, he smiled slightly, and I felt a chill run down my spine. "Mother Harper," Clara said, and I noticed she'd never called me that before. Always just Evelyn. "Perhaps we should discuss this privately? I'm sure Daniel would have wanted—" "Excuse me," I interrupted, addressing Morrison while keeping my peripheral vision on the stranger. "Who is that gentleman?" The man stood, buttoning his charcoal suit jacket with practiced ease. "Victor Hale," he said, his voice smooth as aged whiskey. "I was a business associate of Daniel's. I'm here merely to pay my respects and ensure a smooth transition of certain ventures we shared." Business associate? Daniel had always been meticulous about keeping me informed of his partnerships, yet I'd never heard this name, never seen this face in any of the family photos from company events. I wasn't aware Daniel had any active business partners, I said carefully. Victor's smile widened, but it didn't reach his eyes. "The best partnerships often operate in discretion. Mrs. Harper, your son understood that. I'm confident we'll have occasion to speak soon about continuing his legacy." He nodded to Clara, a gesture so quick I almost missed it and left. The door clicked shut with a finality that made me shiver. Clara turned to me, her face a study in calculated sorrow. "Evelyn, you must be overwhelmed. $19 million is such a burden for someone your age. Perhaps I could help manage." "That's kind of you, dear," I said, standing on legs that suddenly felt every one of my 72 years. "But I managed a business for 3 decades. I think I can handle this." Her jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. "Of course, I just thought—" "Daniel would have wanted me to help care for you." As we left Morrison's office, I couldn't shake the feeling that I'd just witnessed the opening move in a game I didn't yet understand. Daniel's death, the mysterious Victor Hale, Clara's barely concealed fury, pieces of a puzzle I feared to complete, that night alone in my empty house. I sat in Daniel's favorite chair and wondered, what had my son gotten himself into, and why did he make sure that whatever it was, it would come to me? A week after the funeral. Clara appeared at my door at 8:30 a.m., carrying a silver tray with delicate china cups. Her smile seemed painted on, too bright for a recent widow. "I thought you might enjoy some coffee," she said, breezing past me into the kitchen. "I know how you love your morning ritual." I watched her move through my kitchen with unsettling familiarity, arranging everything just so on the granite counter. She'd changed from her morning black to a cream cashmere sweater that probably cost more than my monthly pension used to be. "That's thoughtful of you," I said, settling onto the bar stool across from her. She poured the coffee with practiced grace, the dark liquid streaming into my favorite cup, the one with tiny violets that Daniel had given me for Mother's Day 20 years ago. The steam rose between us, and that's when it hit me. Bitter almonds. The scent was subtle, almost masked by the coffee's natural aroma, but unmistakable. My hand froze halfway to the cup. Daniel's voice echoed in my memory from a documentary we'd watched together years ago. "Cyanide smells like bitter almonds. Mom, that's how they always caught the poisoners in the old days." Clara watched me, her eyes sharp despite her gentle smile. "Is something wrong?" My heart hammered against my ribs, but 72 years of life had taught me to hide fear. I forced a small laugh. "Oh, these old hands aren't what they used to be." I reached for the cup again, deliberately clumsy, and knocked it sideways. Coffee splashed across the granite, pooling dark against the light stone. The cup shattered on the tile floor. "Oh," I gasped, standing quickly. "How clumsy of me. I'm so sorry, dear." Clara's face went through a series of micro-expressions: shock, frustration, then forced concern. She grabbed paper towels, but her movements were sharp, agitated. "It's fine," she said, though her voice was tight. "I'll make you another cup." No, I said, backing away. "I've just remembered I have a doctor's appointment these days. I can barely keep track of anything." "But you need your caffeine," she insisted, already reaching for the coffee pot. "It'll just take a minute." "Rain check?" I said, grabbing my purse from the counter. "Maybe tomorrow?" Her smile faltered. "Of course, tomorrow." As I ushered her out, I noticed her hands trembling slightly. She paused at the door, turning back to me with an expression I couldn't quite read. "Evelyn," she said softly, "Daniel would want us to take care of each other. We're all we have left now." "Yes," I agreed, meeting her gaze steadily. "We should definitely take care." After she left, I locked the door and leaned against it, my legs suddenly weak. I made my way to the kitchen sink and turned on the water. Watching the coffee swirl down the drain, the bitter almond scent lingered, and I opened all the windows despite the morning chill. I found myself at the coffee maker, examining what remained in the pot. The smell was stronger here, definitely not my imagination. Clara had tried to poison me, my daughter-in-law, who'd sat at my Thanksgiving table for 15 years, who'd called me on my birthdays, who'd given me grandchildren I'd never have. She'd tried to kill me for money. But as I stood there, staring at the stained granite, another thought crept in. Clara wasn't stupid. She was calculating. Yes, but not sloppy. Cyanide in coffee was amateur. Obvious. The kind of thing anyone who'd watched a crime show would catch, unless she wanted me to catch it, unless she was desperate, unless someone was forcing her hand. I thought of Victor Hale's ice-cold eyes, that subtle nod he'd given Clara at the lawyer's office. What if Clara wasn't the puppet master, but the puppet? What if my son's $19 million came with strings attached, strings that were now wrapped around both our necks? I reached for my phone, then hesitated. Who would I call? The police? And tell them what? That my coffee smelled funny? That I was a paranoid old woman who'd just inherited a fortune and was seeing conspiracies everywhere? No, if Clara wanted me dead, she'd try again. And if someone was controlling her, they wouldn't stop either. I needed to understand what Daniel had been involved in, why he'd left everything to me, and who Victor Hale really was. I looked at the shattered cup on my floor. Violet petals scattered among the porcelain shards. Daniel had loved those violets, said they reminded him of the ones in my garden when he was small. "What were you trying to tell me, son?" I whispered to the empty kitchen. "What mess did you leave for your mother to clean up?" Tomorrow, Clara would return with more coffee. But tonight, I had work to do. That night, I couldn't sleep. Every creak of the old house made me jump. Every shadow seemed to hide a threat. At 2:15 a.m., I gave up and crept down to Daniel's home office. I'd avoided this room since his death, unable to face the lingering scent of his cologne, the half-empty coffee mug still sitting on his desk. I flicked on the banker's lamp, casting a green glow over the mahogany surfaces. Everything was exactly as he'd left it. Legal pads covered in his angular handwriting, a crystal paperweight from his trip to Prague, family photos in silver frames, but something felt wrong. Too perfect, too arranged. Daniel had been meticulous. Yes, but also human. Where were the paper clips scattered across the desk? The sticky notes he constantly stuck to his computer monitor? It was as if someone had cleaned, then carefully recreated a scene. I started with the obvious places: desk drawers, filing cabinets, the bookshelf. Nothing unusual. Tax returns, business correspondence, old birthday cards I'd sent him. Then I noticed the oriental rug was slightly askew. One corner turned up. Daniel would never have left it that way. Kneeling wasn't easy at my age, but I managed to pull back the rug. Nothing. But when I ran my hand along the floorboards, I felt it, a groove that shouldn't be there. I pressed down, and a section of the floor lifted slightly. My heart raced as I pried it open. Inside was a small fireproof safe I'd never seen before. On top of it lay an envelope with my name in Daniel's handwriting. My hands shook as I opened it. "Mom, if you're reading this, then my worst fears have come true. The combination is your birthday backwards. Please forgive me." I worked the dial with trembling fingers. Inside the safe were 3 things: a leather-bound journal, a manila envelope thick with documents, and a small velvet box. I started with the journal, recognizing Daniel's handwriting immediately. The first entry was dated 6 months ago. Victor Hale approached me today with an opportunity that seemed too good to be true. It was. I read on, my blood growing colder with each page. Daniel had been recruited into something that started as international finance, but quickly revealed itself as a money laundering operation. Shell companies in the Caymans, cryptocurrency transfers, coded transactions through seemingly legitimate businesses. Victor has something on everyone. One entry read, "Today I learned about Clara's father. 300,000 in gambling debts to the wrong people. Victor bought the debt, now he owns them both." I set the journal aside, my hands shaking. Poor Clara. I'd been ready to condemn her, but she was as trapped as Daniel had been. The manila envelope contained bank statements, incorporation documents, photographs, Daniel on a yacht with Victor and other men I didn't recognize, all of them raising champagne glasses while containers were loaded onto a cargo ship in the background. But it was the last item that broke my heart. The velvet box contained a USB drive and another note. "Everything's on here. Mom, names, dates, transactions. I made copies of Victor's files when I realized I couldn't get out. I was going to the FBI next week. If something happens to me, no, it wasn't an accident. Get this to Arthur Lane, Dad's old friend. He'll know what to do. I'm sorry I brought this to your door. I love you." I sat back on my heels, the weight of understanding crushing. Daniel hadn't died in an accident. He'd been murdered for trying to do the right thing. And now Victor needed the money Daniel had hidden, the $19 million that was probably skimmed from their operation, money that now legally belonged to me. A sound from upstairs made me freeze, just the house settling, I told myself. But then I heard it again, a soft footstep in the hallway above. Someone was in my house. I quickly closed the safe, slipped the USB into my robe pocket, and grabbed the heavy crystal paperweight from Daniel's desk. The footsteps were moving toward the stairs now. I crept to the office door, peering into the dark hallway. A figure descended the stairs, silhouetted against the window, too tall to be Clara, too broad. My grip tightened on the paperweight. The figure reached the bottom of the stairs and turned toward the office. In the faint light from the street, I caught a glimpse of silver hair. Victor Hale was in my house. I pressed myself against the wall beside the door, holding my breath. He entered slowly, confidently, as if he had every right to be there. When he passed my hiding spot, I acted on instinct, swinging the paperweight at his head, but he was faster than a man his age should be. He ducked, grabbed my wrist, and twisted. The paperweight fell to the floor with a thud. "Mrs. Harper," he said calmly, as if we'd met for tea. "I apologize for the late visit, but we need to talk about your son's affairs." "Get out of my house," I gasped, trying to pull away. His grip tightened. "I'm afraid I can't do that. You see, Daniel took something that belongs to me, and I believe you've just found it." "Let go of me," I said, surprised by the steadiness in my voice, "or I'll scream." Victor released my wrist, but didn't step back. "Your nearest neighbor is a quarter-mile away. Mrs. Harper, but please, let's be civilized. I haven't come to hurt you." "You killed my son." His expression didn't change. "Your son killed himself the moment he betrayed our arrangement. I'm here to recover what he stole and offer you a deal. The $19 million in exchange for your life. Simple. Get out," I repeated. But he was already moving past me into the office, flicking on the overhead light. His eyes went immediately to the displaced rug. "Ah," he said, "you've been busy." I watched him examine the floor safe, my mind racing. The USB drive felt like it was burning a hole in my pocket if he searched me. "It's empty." I lied. "Whatever you're looking for, Daniel didn't leave it here." Victor straightened, studying me with those cold eyes. "You're a terrible liar, Mrs. Harper, just like your son." He pulled out his phone. "Clara, dear. Yes, she found it. Come over." My heart sank. Of course Clara was involved. Within minutes. I heard a key in my front door. She still had the spare I'd given her years ago. She appeared in the office doorway, looking haggard without her usual perfect makeup. "Evelyn," she said, and I was shocked to see tears in her eyes. "I'm so sorry. I never wanted—" "Enough." Victor cut her off. "Mrs. Harper, you're going to give me the contents of that safe. Then you're going to transfer the $19 million to accounts I'll provide. After that, Clara's father's debts disappear, and you get to live out your remaining years in peace." "And if I refuse?" He smiled. "Clara's already tried the gentle approach with the coffee. There are less pleasant methods." "You forced her to poison me." Clara made a choked sound. "He has my father. They'll kill him if I don't—" "I said enough." Victor's mask finally slipped, revealing the monster beneath. "You have 1 hour to decide. Mrs. Harper, I'll be waiting in the living room. Clara will keep you company." After he left, Clara sank into Daniel's desk chair, looking smaller than I'd ever seen her. "I didn't want to hurt you," she whispered, "but they have my father in some warehouse. They send me pictures." Despite everything, I felt a wave of pity. We were both victims of this man. "Clara, there has to be another way." She shook her head. "You don't understand. Victor has judges, police commissioners, politicians. Daniel tried to run, and look what happened. Daniel was going to the FBI." Her eyes widened. "What?" "I made a decision then, one that could get us both killed. I pulled out the USB drive. He gathered evidence. Everything's on here." Clara stared at it like it was a live grenade. "If Victor finds that—" "He won't." I moved to Daniel's computer, powering it on. "But I need help. Daniel mentioned someone named Arthur Lane. Do you know him?" "No, but—" She frowned, thinking, wait, Daniel had a birthday reminder in his phone, Arthur Lane, with a note that said, "Dad's old partner. Call every year." My husband's old partner, of course. "Can you find his number?" Clara pulled out her phone, scrolling through Daniel's synced contacts. "Here. Arthur Lane, with an address in Boston." "Call him," I said. "Tell him Evelyn Harper needs his help. Tell him it's about Daniel and that he was right to be worried." Clara hesitated. Victor will kill us both. He's going to kill us anyway, I said bluntly. Once he has the money, we're loose ends. Our only chance is to get help. She dialed with shaking fingers. I heard a gruff voice answer despite the late hour. Mr. Lane, this is Clara Harper, Daniel's wife. His mother needs to speak with you urgently. I took the phone. Arthur, it's Evelyn? Evelyn? His voice was instantly alert. What's wrong? Is this about Daniel's concerns? Daniel's dead, I said quietly, and the man he was afraid of is in my house right now. A pause. Then, Victor Hale? You know him. Daniel came to me 6 weeks ago, told me everything. I've been building a case with a friend in the bureau, but we needed evidence. I have it. Everything Daniel collected. Listen carefully, Arthur said. I'm 2 hours away, but I'll call my contact now. Can you stall? I looked at Clara, who was watching me with a mixture of hope and terror. We'll try. Evelyn, whatever happens, don't let him get that evidence. And don't trust anyone local. He owns half the police force there. The line went dead. Clara and I looked at each other, two women bound by loss and fear. What do we do? She whispered. I straightened my spine, feeling more like myself than I had since Daniel's death. We play along, we give him what he wants to see, and we pray Arthur gets here in time. From the living room, Victor's voice called out, Ladies, time's ticking. I slipped the USB back into my pocket and picked up the journal and documents from the safe. Whatever happened next, Daniel's evidence would survive. It had to. I handed Clara the journal and documents from the safe. Take these to him. Tell him I'm looking for the bank account information he wants. She looked at me uncertainly but took the papers. As she left the office, I quickly accessed Daniel's computer. Plugging in the USB drive, my fingers flew across the keyboard, 72 years old, but I'd learned computers to keep up with inventory at my fabric shop. The drive contained folders within folders, offshore accounts, wire transfers, Victor Hale communications, murder evidence. My stomach turned at the last one. I opened it to find audio files, including one labeled, Victor Threatens Mom, recorded 3 weeks before death. I clicked play. Keeping the volume low, Daniel's voice filled the room, tense and angry. You leave my mother out of this. Your mother becomes involved the moment you think about betraying me. Victor's recorded voice responded, Accidents happen to elderly women all the time. Falls down stairs, medication mix-ups, home invasions gone wrong. I quickly copied everything to Daniel's cloud storage, then to 3 separate email accounts I created on the spot. If something happened to the USB, the evidence would survive. Mrs. Harper, Victor's voice made me jump. I'm growing impatient. I closed everything and pocketed the USB again, then grabbed a folder of bank statements from Daniel's filing cabinet. Walking into the living room, I found Victor examining our family photos on the mantel while Clara sat rigidly on the sofa. Here, I said, handing him the folder. Account numbers, routing information, passwords, everything you need for the transfer. He flipped through the papers, frowning. These are Daniel's regular accounts. Where are the Cayman records? The cryptocurrency wallets? I don't know anything about those. I said, I found what was in the safe. Nothing more. Victor set down the folder and approached me slowly. Mrs. Harper, I've been patient, but my patience has limits. He nodded to Clara. Show her. Clara pulled out her phone with trembling hands, showing me a video, an elderly man, her father, tied to a chair in what looked like a warehouse. He was bruised, terrified. Every hour you delay, Victor said, he suffers. So let me ask again. Where is the real documentation? I felt the USB in my pocket, such a small thing to cause so much pain, but giving it to him meant Daniel died for nothing. It meant Victor would continue destroying lives. I need time, I said. Daniel was secretive. There might be another hiding place. You have 30 minutes, Victor said. Clara will help you look. And remember, I have eyes everywhere. One phone call to the wrong person, and her father pays the price. Clara and I returned to the office. As soon as we were alone, she whispered, Did you really upload it? I nodded. Multiple places. Even if he gets the drive, copies exist. Then give it to him. she urged. "Please, my father." "Clara, he's going to kill your father regardless. And us, we know too much." Her face crumpled. "Then what do we do?" I looked at my watch. 3:45 a.m. Arthur said 2 hours. We needed to stall for at least another 45 minutes. "We search," I said loudly, in case Victor was listening. "Help me check the books." We made a show of pulling books from shelves, checking behind picture frames. I knocked over a lamp, accidentally, buying us a few more minutes of cleanup. Clara played along, though I could see the desperation in her eyes. 20 minutes passed, then 30. Victor appeared in the doorway. "Time's up." "Please," I said. "I know Daniel hid something else. His birthday is next week. He always used important dates for passwords, hiding places. Let me think." Victor pulled out a gun, casual as if it were a wallet. "I'm done playing games." Clara gasped. I stepped in front of her instinctively. "Touching," Victor said. "Protecting the woman who tried to poison you?" Daniel had the same foolish nobility. Look where it got him. "I'll transfer the money," I said quickly. "All of it. Right now. Just put the gun away." He smiled coldly. "Finally. Sense. But first, the USB drive." "What USB drive?" The smile vanished. "The one in your pocket. Did you think I was stupid? Clara, retrieve it." Clara looked at me apologetically as she stepped forward. I backed away, but there was nowhere to go. Her hand went to my pocket, and I saw the moment her fingers found the drive. Our eyes met. "I'm sorry," she whispered, then louder. "It's not here." Victor's face darkened. "What? Her pocket is empty," Clara said, showing her empty hand. "She must have hidden it somewhere else." I felt the USB still in my pocket. Clara had palmed it, pretended to search. She was choosing me over her father, choosing justice over blood. The weight of that sacrifice nearly brought me to my knees. Victor raised the gun to Clara's head. "You have 3 seconds to tell me where it is." "I uploaded it," I said quickly. "Everything. It's already with the FBI." He turned the gun on me. "You're lying. Check Daniel's computer. The upload history is still there." For the first time, I saw fear flicker in Victor's eyes. He gestured with the gun. "Show me. Now." As we walked back to the computer, I prayed Arthur's people were close. We were running out of time, and Victor was running out of patience. The game was nearly over, and I wasn't sure any of us would survive the final move. I sat at Daniel's computer, Victor's gun pressed against the back of my head. My fingers moved across the keyboard, deliberately slow, opening browser windows and email accounts. Behind us, Clara stood frozen, the USB drive hidden in her closed fist. "Hurry up," Victor growled. I pulled up the sent emails, showing him the cloud storage links I'd created. His face went white as he saw the file names. Victor Hale Criminal Enterprise, Money Laundering Evidence, Daniel Harper Murder Recording. "You stupid old woman," he snarled. "Do you have any idea what you've done? What my son couldn't?" I replied, surprising myself with my calm. "The right thing." Victor grabbed my shoulder, spinning the chair to face him. "Delete them. All of them. Now." "I can't. They're already sent to multiple FBI email addresses, even if I delete my copies." The gun whipped across my face. Pain exploded through my cheek, and I tasted blood. Clara cried out, starting forward, but Victor pointed the gun at her. "Stay there." He turned back to me. "You've signed your death warrant, both of you." "My death was signed the moment Daniel died," I said, spitting blood. "At least now it means something." Victor's phone buzzed. He answered without lowering the gun. "What?" His face changed, fury mixing with something else. Fear? "How many? When?" He listened, then, "Get everyone out. Burn the warehouse files. Yes, all of them." He hung up, and I knew Arthur's help had arrived somewhere. But we weren't safe yet. "Change of plans," Victor said. "You're going to call whoever you contacted and tell them it was a misunderstanding, that you were confused, grieving. You'll recant everything." "No." He moved the gun to Clara. "I wasn't asking." "Evelyn, please," Clara whispered. But I heard the message beneath. She was ready to die for this, too. Daniel would have been proud of her. "Even if I called them, they have the evidence. It's over. Victor." "Not quite." He pulled out his phone again, showing me a live video feed. Clara's father, still in that warehouse, but now with men in suits pouring gasoline around him. One word from me, and he burns. Your choice. Mrs. Harper, make the call, or watch Clara watch her father die. My hands shook as I reached for the phone, but as I did, I remembered something, the brooch on my cardigan, a vintage rose pin I always wore, one of the few valuable pieces I owned. More importantly, one Daniel had given me last Christmas with an odd comment. For safety, Mom, keep it on always. I'd thought he meant the sharp pin backing. Now I wondered. I'll make the call, I said, standing slowly. But not with a gun to my head. I need to sound convincing. Victor considered, then lowered the gun slightly. Clara, come here. Stand next to her. As Clara moved beside me, I caught her eye and glanced down at my brooch. Her eyes widened slightly. She knew about it too. Daniel had told her something. I picked up the desk phone, pretending to struggle with remembering the number. As I did, I pressed the center of the rose brooch. Nothing seemed to happen. But Clara's sharp intake of breath told me she'd noticed something I hadn't. Speakerphone, Victor commanded. I dialed Arthur's number, praying he'd understand. He answered on the second ring. Evelyn, are you safe? Mr. Lane, I said carefully. I'm sorry to have worried you. I was confused earlier. Grieving. There's no problem here. A pause. I see. And Mr. Hale is there with you now. Victor tensed at the mention of his name. I felt the gun press against Clara's ribs. Yes, I said. We're just sorting through some of Daniel's business matters. Everything is fine. I understand, Arthur said. And I could hear he did. He knew we were under duress. Evelyn, do you remember what your husband used to say about his rose garden? My breath caught. My late husband's favorite saying, when the roses bloom, the thorns protect them. Yes, I managed. Good. The roses are blooming now. Evelyn, 47 of them, all around your house. 47, he was telling me there were 47 agents surrounding my home. Victor sensed something, grabbing the phone. Who is this? Arthur Lane, FBI consultant. Arthur's voice came strong and clear. And you're surrounded. Mr. Hale, release Mrs. Harper and Mrs. Clara Harper, and come out with your hands visible. Victor dropped the phone, his face contorting with rage. He grabbed Clara, gun to her temple. We're leaving, all of us. They won't shoot if I have hostages. They won't let you leave, I said. Then we all die together. He was unraveling, the controlled businessman facade cracking completely. Move! But Clara had been waiting for her moment. As he pushed her toward the door, she suddenly went limp, dropping all her weight. The unexpected move threw him off balance for just a second, long enough for her to twist and slam the USB drive into his eye. Victor screamed, staggering back. The gun went off, deafeningly loud in the small room. I felt the bullet whistle past my ear, shattering Daniel's diploma on the wall. FBI! Drop your weapon! Voices boomed from outside, from the hallway, from everywhere at once. Victor, blood streaming from his eye, swung the gun wildly between Clara and me. You bitches destroyed everything. I saw his finger tighten on the trigger, saw him choose his target. Clara, without thinking. I lunged forward, pushing her aside. The gun roared again. This time, I felt the bullet catch my shoulder. Spinning me around, I hit the floor hard, pain blooming across my chest. Through the shock, I heard doors crashing open, voices shouting. Victor screaming obscenities. Then Clara was beside me, pressing something against my shoulder. Evelyn! Oh God, Evelyn, stay with me. The drive, I whispered. Did you? She held up the blood-smeared USB. I've got it. You did it. Evelyn, we did it. As darkness crept in from the edges of my vision, I saw federal agents flooding the room. Victor face down in handcuffs. I thought of Daniel, of justice finally coming. Tell them. I managed to say to Clara, tell them about your father, the warehouse. They know, she said, tears streaming. They already have teams there. He's safe. We're all safe now. I closed my eyes, feeling strangely peaceful. We'd won. It had cost everything, but we'd won. The paramedics worked on me with urgent efficiency, their voices a distant hum as I drifted in and out of consciousness. Through the haze of pain medication, I heard Clara arguing with someone about riding in the ambulance. She won. She always was stronger than she looked. "You're going to be fine," she kept saying, squeezing my hand. "The bullet went clean through. You're going to be fine." I wanted to tell her she didn't need to lie, but speaking seemed like too much effort. Instead, I focused on the rhythm of the siren, the gentle sway of the ambulance, the warmth of her hand in mine. At the hospital, everything blurred together. Bright lights, concerned faces, the cold bite of an IV needle. When I finally surfaced fully, weak sunlight was streaming through the window. Clara was asleep in the chair beside my bed, still wearing her blood-stained cashmere sweater. "She hasn't left your side." I turned to find Arthur Lane standing in the doorway. He looked older than I'd imagined, with kind eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses and the solid presence of someone who'd seen too much but hadn't let it break him. "Arthur," I whispered, my throat dry. He poured water from the pitcher on my bedside table, helping me take small sips. "The doctors say you're lucky. Another inch to the left." He shook his head. "You Harper women are tougher than you look." "Victor? In federal custody, singing like a canary to avoid the death penalty for Daniel's murder. We've already arrested 17 members of his organization, frozen dozens of accounts, rescued Clara's father and 6 other people they were holding for leverage." I felt tears slip down my cheeks. "Daniel would have been proud," Arthur finished. "He'd have been damn proud of his mother." Clara stirred, her eyes flying open when she saw I was awake. "Evelyn, how do you feel? Do you need anything?" The nurses said. "Clara," I interrupted gently. "I'm okay. Are you?" She laughed, a broken sound. "You took a bullet for me after I tried to poison you. I don't think I'll ever be okay again. You were protecting your father. I understand that kind of love." "Don't," she said fiercely. "Don't forgive me so easily. I knew what Victor was when I stayed silent. I knew Daniel was in danger, and I chose my father over my husband. I have to live with that." Arthur cleared his throat. "Actually, Mrs. Clara Harper, that's something we need to discuss. The Bureau is prepared to offer you a deal. Full immunity in exchange for your testimony. You were a victim of coercion, and your cooperation last night saved lives." Clara shook her head. "I don't deserve—" "You do," I said firmly. "Daniel would want you to take it. Start over, live the life Victor stole from you." She broke down then, sobbing into her hands. I reached out with my good arm, pulling her close. We held each other, 2 women bound by loss and betrayal and, somehow, love. Over the next hours, FBI agents came and went, taking my statement, showing me documents, playing recordings. The scope of Victor's operation was staggering. Drugs, weapons, human trafficking, all hidden behind a veneer of legitimate business. Daniel had stumbled into it seeking investment capital and found himself trapped in a nightmare. He tried to protect everyone. One agent told me, "The evidence he gathered will take down an entire network. Your son was a hero, Mrs. Harper." But heroes shouldn't die at 45. Heroes should live to see their children grow, to take care of their aging mothers, to make amends for their mistakes. I said none of this, just nodded and signed where they told me to sign. That evening, Clara returned with a small suitcase. "Your things," she said. "The house is still a crime scene, but I thought you'd want—" I grabbed what I could. Inside, along with clothes and toiletries, was the rose brooch, cleaned now of blood. I held it up to the light. "GPS tracker and panic button," Clara explained. "Daniel had them made for both of us. I never wore mine. I was too afraid Victor would find out. He knew you were in danger, too. He knew everything." She sat on the edge of my bed. "Evelyn, I need to tell you something. The $19 million, it's not what Victor thought. Daniel moved the stolen money back to its victims months ago. That's why Victor couldn't find it. The $19 million he left you? That's legitimately his. Every penny earned before Victor came into our lives." I stared at her. "He gave back $20 million? More like $30 million, according to the FBI. He kept records of every person Victor had stolen from, every business destroyed. He was systematically making it right. That's what got him killed. Victor discovered the transfers. My son, the hero, the weight of pride and grief threatened to crush me. There's more, Clara continued, in his real will, the one Victor never saw. He left instructions. If anything happened to him, you were to use the money to help Victor's other victims. There's a list. She handed me a folded paper from the suitcase. Names, addresses, amounts stolen, lives destroyed, at the bottom in Daniel's handwriting. Mom, help me make this right. I looked at Clara. Will you help me? You still want me around? We're family, I said simply. Complicated, broken, but family. Daniel loved us both. That has to count for something. She nodded, tears streaming again. Then yes, I'll help. As she left to get coffee from the hospital cafeteria, she assured me with a watery smile. I held Daniel's list to my chest. $19 million, dozens of lives to rebuild. It would take years. But I had time. The doctor said I'd make a full recovery. Outside my window, the sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of amber and rose, somewhere. Victor Hale was in a cell, his empire crumbling, somewhere. Clara's father was safe, learning to live without fear, and here I sat, 72 years old, shot and stitched and alive, holding my son's last wish in my hands. I'll make it right, Daniel. I whispered to the empty room. I promise. Tomorrow, I would start. Tonight, I would grieve. But for the first time since that police officer knocked on my door, I felt something besides sorrow and fear. I felt purpose. 6 months later, I stood in my kitchen again, watching Clara pour coffee into the same violet-decorated cups. This time, the aroma was pure Colombian, nothing more. She'd moved into Daniel's old room temporarily while helping me manage the victim restitution fund we'd established. Every morning started the same way. Coffee, case files, and planning how to return what Victor had stolen. The Donovan family in Nebraska, Clara said, reading from her laptop. Victor destroyed their trucking business with fraudulent loans. They're about to lose their home. Wire them enough to pay off the mortgage and restart the business, I said, making notes. Add extra for the emotional damages. We'd returned $12 million so far to families across the country. Each thank you letter went into a special box, Daniel's Legacy of Redemption. The FBI helped verify victims, ensuring every dollar went where it should. The trial had been swift. Victor Hale, faced with mountains of evidence and my testimony, had pled guilty to avoid death row, life without parole, plus 200 years. When they led him away, he'd looked at me with those cold eyes one last time. I'd felt nothing. He was already a ghost. Clara's father had required months of therapy, but he was healing. He'd moved in with Clara's sister in Phoenix, far from the memories. Clara visited monthly, slowly rebuilding their relationship. Evelyn, Clara said now, closing the laptop, there's something I need to tell you. I set down my coffee, recognizing her serious tone. What is it? I've been accepted to law school, Columbia. I want to become a prosecutor, help other victims of people like Victor. Pride swelled in my chest. Daniel would be thrilled. I'll finish helping with the fund first. You'll go to law school, I interrupted. I can manage the fund. Arthur's been volunteering to help anyway. Says retirement is boring. She smiled, that genuine smile I'd rarely seen before Victor's shadow lifted. I'll visit, every holiday. You're the only real family I have left. I know. I reached across the granite counter, taking her hand. We survived, Clara. Despite everything, we survived. That afternoon, I visited Daniel's grave for the first time since the trial ended. The headstone was simple. Daniel Harper, beloved son, 1,979 to 2,024 inches. I'd added a line below. He made it right. I knelt on the grass, my shoulder only twinging slightly now. Your list is getting shorter, I told him. Clara's going to law school. Can you believe it? She's going to help people, just like you wanted to. Wind rustled through the cemetery oaks, and for a moment, I could almost hear his laugh. I placed a single white rose on the grave, from my own garden, thorns and all. "I miss you every day," I whispered. "But I'm not angry anymore. You did your best in an impossible situation. You protected us the only way you knew how. Standing was harder than kneeling at my age, but I managed." As I walked back to my car, I felt lighter somehow. The money would run out eventually. We'd give it all away. Every penny tainted by association with Victor's world, but that was okay. I'd lived simply before Daniel's success. I could do it again. My phone rang. Arthur's name appeared on the screen. "Evelyn? I found 3 more families in Michigan. Victor's early victims, before he got sophisticated. They've been living in poverty for years." "Send me the details," I said, already calculating what we could spare. "We'll make it right." That evening, I sat in my living room, photo albums spread across the coffee table, pictures of Daniel as a baby, a gap-toothed first grader, a proud college graduate, photos of my late husband, of the fabric shop I'd run for 30 years, of the life I'd built before it all went dark. But there were new photos, too. Clara at her law school acceptance. Families we'd helped sending pictures of their children. Arthur and I sorting through files with reading glasses perched on our noses. Life, continuing, despite everything. The doorbell rang, unusual for 7:15 p.m. I checked the peephole. A young woman with a baby stood outside, looking nervous. I opened the door cautiously. "Can I help you?" "Mrs. Harper? I'm sorry to bother you. I'm Maria Castellano. My husband worked for Daniel's legitimate shipping company. He tried to help your son leave Victor's organization. Victor had him killed 2 weeks before Daniel died." My breath caught. Another victim. Another life destroyed. I didn't know who else to turn to. She continued, the baby fussing in her arms. "We're about to be evicted, and I heard you were helping people Victor hurt." I stepped aside immediately. "Come in, please. Come in." As I made her tea and listened to her story, I thought about circles, how violence created ripples that spread endlessly outward, but how kindness could too. Daniel had thrown a stone into dark water when he chose to make amends. The ripples were still spreading. Later, after Maria left with a check and promises of more help to come, I stood at my kitchen window. The coffee maker sat clean and ready for tomorrow. Clara would pour, I would drink, and we would continue Daniel's work. Not because we had to anymore, but because it was right. My shoulder ached. It always would on damp nights. My son was gone. That wound would never fully heal. But I was 72 years old. I had survived a monster, and I had work to do. In the reflection of the window, I saw myself clearly for the first time in months. Not a victim, not a grieving mother, not a foolish old woman who'd missed the signs. I saw a survivor, someone who'd faced evil with nothing but courage and a mother's love, and won. "Thank you, Daniel," I said to the night, "for trusting me with this." Tomorrow there would be more coffee, more families to help, more of Daniel's wrongs to right, but tonight I was at peace. The bitter almond scent was just a memory now, replaced by the lingering aroma of Colombian beans and the sweet knowledge that justice, however delayed, had finally been served. The 19 million would disappear, given away dollar by dollar to heal wounds Victor had torn. But what would remain? The connections formed, the lives rebuilt, the knowledge that even in darkness, good people could stand together. That was worth more than any fortune. I turned off the kitchen light and headed upstairs, my hand trailing along the banister Daniel used to slide down as a boy. In the morning, Clara and I would continue our work, for now. I would sleep without fear for the first time in months, knowing the monster was caged and the angels, flawed and human as they were, had won. Thank you for listening to this story. I'd love to know where you're listening from. Please share in the comments below so we can connect. If you enjoyed this revenge story, please subscribe to the channel and share your thoughts. What would you have done in Evelyn's situation? Your comments and perspectives mean the world to me.